All right, so yesterday's webinar, Lacrosse 101, I thought it went great. There was a lot of good feedback, but afterwards we realized it didn't record. So I'm going to go through the slideshow again today, record it this way. The number of people have reached out asking about, that they missed the video, but could they check it out today on the recording. So I'm going to record it and run through the same stuff as yesterday. Try and remember some of the questions that were asked, and then answer those and go into more detail on all the stuff we worked on yesterday. So this way we have it saved and can use it, not only this week, but in the future as well. So here we go. All right, so Lacrosse 101, the importance of this is, the focus of this is that we want to talk about some of the rules, some of the positions, and the areas on the field. And going through all this, the main goal is to help you guys learn this stuff, and then to make it very easy when you go into your spring practices and work with your coaches this spring. You're able to know exactly what we're talking about when, coach says, I need 3 defensemen, and this is where they go. You know exactly where to go. Or when we talk about, I want, guys running down the alley, things like that. Hopefully this Lacrosse 101 session is helpful on those things. So let's jump in. Right. So talking about some of the basic rules of lacrosse. First thing we're talking about is the positions, right? So when we're talking about 10v10 full field lacrosse, you've got 3 attackmen. Those are the guys that stay on the offensive end of the field, typically close to the goal we're trying to score on. We call them the attackmen or attack. There's 3 of those guys. Midfielders, there's 3 of those guys. Those are the guys that go up and down the field, and they play offense and defense. And then you've got 3 defensemen. Their job mostly is to be near our goal that we defend, protect our goal, protect our goalie. We've got 3 of those guys. And then, of course, you got a goalie who's in the net, in the crease, making those saves. Something we didn't talk about yesterday, but is the different sticks, right? So attacking midfielders use a short stick, right, which is, it's typically about a 40-inch stick. That's the high school and college rules, and the youth, different ages have different lengths. Defensemen, there's certain lengths that you can use in the youth program, but again, at the high school, it's a 6-foot pole, and in college and high school and pros, it's a 6-foot pole for those guys. And then the goalie, obviously, he's got a goalie stick, which the head is much bigger in order to make saves and catch those shots. So, specialty positions. These are things that you kind of see as you get older in the youth program, and definitely into high school and into college and into the pros. Is a face-off or FOGO, and the FOGO acronym is face off, get off. And that's a guy, you can do it 2 different ways. One is you face off and stay on, right, and play offense or defense. And then there's another, style of being a face-off guy would be a FOGO, which means you take the face-off and get off the field. Whether you win the face-off and get the ball to the offense, or you lose the ball and you're playing defense, you'd want to run off the field and match a guy. And as we get going, we can talk more about what that means. But for you 5th and 6th graders, we shouldn't really have any FOGOs. All the guys should be working to face off and stay on. We've also got long stick midfield. That's something that maybe in 6th grade you get into a little bit. But definitely as you get into 7th and 8th grade, you have a designated position. That's a midfielder that goes up and down the field, running up and down the field, can play offense and defense, but he has a long stick. So he's primarily playing on the defensive end, but, he's used on face-offs on the wings, can run down the field and score, things like that. He definitely is involved in a lot of the aspects of the game in the middle of the field. And, it's a position I played in college and in the pros. It's a position that I think can impact the game in so many different ways. So one of the things that happens sometimes is guys, their coaches make them play or ask them to play long stick midfield, and they feel like it's a demotion from defense. But, your long stick midfielder's got to be fast. He's got to be able to get up and down the field, really good athlete. And, long stick midfielder can score goals a lot easier than a defenseman. They're just in that position as a midfielder. And then, they also cover the other team's best midi, work on face-offs on the wings and ground balls, and help in the clear a lot. So, long stick midfield is definitely not a demotion from defense. It actually, to me, is you want to put one of your best athletes at long stick midfield. Defensive midfield, that's something that really, shouldn't exist up until about high school. We don't recommend youth players to focus on being a defensive midfielder, because if that's where your role is, you should probably be working more on your stick skills, more on your shooting, more on your dodging, to try and be a 2-way midfielder. And that's where college lacrosse is going with the shot clock. is to have two-way midfielders. So, being a threat on both ends of the field, being an impact player on both ends of the field is important. Just a couple of quick rules that we'll talk about on the next slide is offsides and midi back, what that means. Talk about the crease and talk about subbing in lacrosse. So here you see the positions, right down on the far end here to the left. We've got our goalie. He's in our crease. He protects our goal. Then we've got our three defensemen in front of him. So we've got D1, D2, D3. They basically spend most of their time on this end of the field, not crossing the midline. But every once in a while, they'll go over with the ball in their stick or go over to help with the clear. M1, M2, M3. The M stands for midfield. These guys go up and down the field. They're allowed to cross the midline whenever they want, as long as there's a three guys and a goalie on the back end of the field. But these guys are typically the guys that run up and down the field, going across the midline, right? And so A1, A2, A3, those are our attackmen. They're kind of set up in a clearing formation, not necessarily where they would be if they were playing offense. They'd spend more time kind of in this area around the goal and behind the net and on the crease. But those are our three attackmen. They spend most of their time on the offensive end. Okay, and then on this slide, we've got our bench area labeled. That's where all the subbing happens. This would be for one team would be on this side and the other team would be here. We'll see that more on the next slide. So talking about offsides first, the way the refs are taught to call offsides is they always want to count on the side of the field where the ball is, right? And they call it counting forwards. And that's important because a lot of times you'll hear parents or you'll hear coaches or even players yelling, they're offsides, but the refs can't turn around and look backwards. They've got to keep their eye on the ball, keep their eye on the offensive side of the field. And that's where, they should be making their call so that if there's a flag or a penalty or a shot and a score, the refs want to see that. They don't want to be looking at the other end of the field, right? So talking about offsides, it's basically when you have 7 players on the offensive end or 8 players on the defensive end because you count the goalie as one of those players. So if in this case you've got the 3 attackmen across, all 3 middies go across, and a defenseman goes across, that would put 7 guys on the offensive end, right? So if we had the ball and this was our team, we go offsides. Since the ball's in our stick on our offensive end, all that happens is it's a turnover and we give the ball to the other team. Okay, there's no flag, no penalty, no time-serving foul, for a offsides. Now, if this was flipped the other way and we were talking about going back to defense and we had our goalie, our 3 defensemen, our 3 middies, and one of our attackmen went across this line. He doesn't have to go all the way to the defense, but he just has to cross over this midline and make it so that we have 7 players plus a goalie, so 8 on this side of the field, right? That would be offsides on us on the defensive end. If the other team has the ball in that situation, that's going to be a flag down, and it'll be a 30-second foul. Okay, so that's something that's important to understand, that offsides is not always a flag. It depends on which team has the ball, right? If the team that has the ball goes offside, so it's us on offense and we go offsides, we just lose the ball, all right? But if the team that doesn't have the ball goes offsides, the other team has it and we're on our defensive end, right, then it would be a flag. Or it could be, they could have the ball over here and we could send too many guys over in the ride. That would also be offsides, and that would still be, flag down even with the ball on this end. So talking about the crease, right, is these circles right here where the goalie stands. Something that's important to understand about that is only the goalie or the defensive team in front of their own goal is allowed to go into the crease. So, the goalie is in there primarily. The defensive guys, they can go in, right? And what that means is they can go in there to pick up a loose ground ball. They can go in there when they're playing defense. A lot of times when you're behind the goal and an attackman dodges you, you want to cut through the crease because you have that advantage because the offensive player can't go through this circle and you can. So you can take a straight line while he has to take a curved line to get there. So, that's the crease. Nobody on the offensive team can go inside the crease. And now something that's important to understand is as a defenseman, you can't go in the crease and act like a goalie. You can't go in there and try and be a goalie to block a shot, right? The refs will automatically stop the play, and assess a foul. That you can't be in the crease trying to play goalie. So they only want the goalie with the chest pad, the protector, the throat guard, the goalie stick. That's the only guy they want in the crease making saves. But a defenseman can run through the crease in other situations. All right. Something that's important is you can't have the ball outside the crease in your stick and then run into the crease. That's illegal to kind of use the crease to protect you when you have the ball. That would be illegal. But you could pick the ball up and throw it to somebody that's inside the crease. Right, you throw it and make a pass to the goalie or a defenseman inside the crease. That guy can catch it in the crease. He has 4 seconds to get outside the crease or pass the ball out of the crease. The last thing on the slide is our subbing, right? So we showed the bench area here on this area of the field. Subbing in the sport of lacrosse is you can do it during play or at a whistle, right? So what that means is it could be like hockey, where there's a line shift and the guys keep skating and the game keeps going while the line shifts off the ice and they sub out and the new line comes on or new defensemen come on. You can sub that way in lacrosse. So it could be during the play of game, or it could be at a stoppage, at a whistle. So, like basketball or soccer where there's a stoppage and that's when you can sub. It'd be the same thing that, while there's a goal and the game is stopped, you can sub that way and run right on the field. Or, at a dead ball and the refs allow a sub, then you can sub on the field there. Heading to the next slide, we'll talk about the areas of the field. So this is the part where, it's helpful for when your coaches are telling you where they want you to go on the field, where we want to move the ball to, where we want you to line up for a face-off, all those kinds of things. This is important to know these areas of the field. So we'll start first with the restraining box. So if you look at this end, you've got this line that comes up to the restraining line, goes across, and then back down to the end line, right? So you've got this box right here. So it's shaded in blue down on this end. That's the restraining box. And this is the area where all the attackmen and defensemen have to be on the start of a face-off. They actually can go into this space on the side here. They just need to be below this line. But this is referred to as either the offensive or defensive zone, right? And that's where the offense and defense, 6-on-6 on the goal or fast breaks or whatever it is. This is where most of the action takes place in a game. Most of the time, the ball will spend time here and then go down to this end and spend time here and come back. And so that's the restraining box and the offensive and defensive zone. This red circle is the crease. We talked about that on the last slide, right? That's where the goalie hangs out. Only the defensive players are allowed in their own crease. And again, the defenseman can't step in front of the goal like a goalie. They can only be in there to cut through the crease or to cover the guy with the ball. This is the restraining line, right? So that line restrains the attackman and defenseman and goalie on a face-off that they can't come above that line until the referee calls possession, meaning one of the teams picks up the ball or they catch it, if it's bouncing, and then the ref will make a motion, a signal with his arm that tells everybody that there's possession, and he'll yell out possession. At that point, the restraining line is no longer holding the attack, defense, and goalie in this box here. There's two X's on the field and they're different. So this one right here is the X behind the goal. So that's when you'll hear your coaches talk about offense or defense, right? Take the ball to X, or we want to dodge from X, right? That's the spot directly behind the goal, right? It's not the spot over here or here behind the net, but it's the spot directly behind the goal in the middle of the field. Okay, that's called X. Now, there's also another one here. That's the face-off X. And really the only time you'd talk about that is for face-offs. That's where the face-off guys go down in their position for the face-off. Maybe in riding and clearing, right? You might say that, we want to put one guy near the X, or we want to have a defensive player by the X to help us ride. But that'll be more about face-offs, and this will be more about offense and defense, that X. The next one is this green line right here. That's the face-off wing. Okay, so when you're lining up for a face-off, the midfielders, one from each team, line up behind this line, one from each team line up behind this line, and one from each team take the face-off. So that's where your three midfielders go, right? And so you'd have one player from each team behind this line. When the ref blows the whistle to start the face-off, then you're able to cross this line. But you can't have your toe on the line. You can't step across the line up until the ref blows the whistle to start that face-off. So when we line up for face-offs, right, it's going to have three attackmen and three defensemen. The defenseman from one team on this end, their attackman will be here, those three players, their goalie would be in this goal, and then your middies would be 1, 2, 3 behind each face-off wing. So that's where you are lining up for a face-off behind that wing. We've got this yellow box here. That's the substitution box. We talked about that a little bit. On the other slides, that's where all the subbing takes place in lacrosse. And, it's one of the things that on the sideline, the coaches are always saying, and the refs are always saying, that they need you to stay outside of the sub box. So the teams would line up over here outside this yellow box, and we want to use this yellow box just for subbing. The last thing on this one is this blue dash line right here. Okay, so what that is GLE, right, which stands for goal line extended. So GLE, goal line extended. And what that is the line that connects the pipes of the goal, right? That line that the goalie stands in front of, that if we get the ball across it, it's a goal. It's that line right there extended out to the sidelines. Okay, and the GLE is important to understand because a lot of offensive and defensive concepts talk about getting above GLE to score, or forcing the guy below GLE where he can't score, or turning the guy at goal line, which means get in front of this guy before he crosses the goal line in front to score, right? So as an offensive player, you always want to get above goal line to shoot, and a defensive player, you want to keep the guy behind goal line, right? So, when you hear that phrase from your coaches this spring, right, GLE, that means goal line extended, and it's that line that goes from pipe to pipe and then extended all the way out to the sidelines. Now we're looking at the offensive and defensive zone, right? So that lines we drew earlier, up to the restraining line and back down to the end line, right? If we look right here, it's this blue shaded area and those, spaces out in the wings, right? So we've got this dotted line up, the restraining line over, the dotted line back to the end line of the field. Okay, and so looking at this one, we already talked about X. That's the area directly behind the goal, right in the middle. Now, when you say behind, that could be anywhere in this area, but it's behind and below goal line extended, right? Because that line would be right here. That blue dashed line we just talked about, that would be right here on the goal line. So anything below that, meaning closer to the end line and behind the goal, right, is labeled as behind. Okay, the goal would be facing this way down the field. Anything behind there is behind. Okay, the green spot right here, this is the alley. Okay, and so when we talk about offense and midfield dodges in particular, right, a midfield dodge down the alley is something you'll hear a lot, right? We want to do one-on-ones down the alley, or defensively, we want to force this man down the alley. Okay, we're talking about this zone right here in the offensive and defensive zone that's from up top down the field. Okay. It's important to understand, to know this spot when your coaches are telling you we want to drive the guy down the alley, we want to dodge down the alley. A lot of goals are scored by midfielders in this area, where a lot of the goals by attackmen come from behind the net, wrapping up around the goal, getting above goal line extended, right? So the alley is very important in that sense. When we talk about playing at PJ Romano, or we talk about playing in Staples Stadium, since we have a football field, right, there's the hash marks, right? And those hash marks would be right in here, kind of right in the middle of the alley. So that's a good area for you to know when you're playing on those fields, that's where the alley is. It's right around those hash marks. Okay, as a dodger, you want to be inside the hash marks because you're closer to the goal. As a defender or a midfielder playing defense, you want to push your guy outside the hash marks so he's on the outside of the alley, much harder to score from over there. The next spot we've got on this is the wing. All right, so the wing is a little bit lower, right? So this would be the alley up here. There's two alleys, one on this side and one on that side, right? You typically would dodge right-handed down this alley and left-handed down this alley. So you might say this is the righty alley or the lefty alley. Okay, now we're talking about the wing is the area that's lower, and a lot of the dodges from the wing will be from the sideline to the middle of the field, right? So the alley was kind of from up top to behind. The wing is kind of from the sideline to the middle of the field. Okay, so this wing area is about from goal line extended, maybe a little higher than goal line extended, up to, let's say, 12 to 15 yards above the goal, right? The restraining line is 20 yards above the goal, so 12 to 15 yards above there is the wing, and a lot of those dodges are dodges that curve to the middle, or they go underneath down towards the pipe, right? So starting on the wing area here and drive underneath, or go over the top to wrap around and score around your defender. A lot of times right-handed players like to be on this wing because as they dodge to the middle, their stick is to the middle. They can shoot, and they can also make passes across the defense. If they dodge underneath, their stick is in front of the goal instead of as a lefty, it'd be back behind the goal. So a lot of guys will do like a face dodge and go underneath and try and bring their stick back to their right hand in tight there. And the wing on this side is typically for the righties, and the wing on this side is typically for the lefties, that they can curve to the middle and have their stick to the middle again to score or make feeds through the defense. And then if they go underneath, their stick will wind up in front of the goal. The last spot on this slide is Y. And what we use that phrase at the high school, it could also be called top center, but we just like to label it as X is behind and Y is top center, so that we know where those two locations are on the field. The Y, Y spot is up top center, right in the middle of the field, just like X is right behind the goal. At the youth level, you probably won't hear Y used too much, but as we develop our curriculum and our coaching staff and the youth follows the high school staff, you'll see more and more of that of Y being top center. We had a question yesterday was, what should a midfielder look for in his dodges from each of these spots? What should he look for from the alley versus behind versus the wing, right? And so generally for all offensive players, right, the thing you want to be looking for as a dodger is trying to score, right? The number one job you have with the ball on your stick is to put it in the net. But if there's a slide, if there's a double team, right, if you don't get to a shooting area, you can't beat your man, your job is not to shoot or score anymore, right? Your job is to make the right play. It might be a pass to an open guy in the crease. It might be a pass to a guy behind, something like that. So that was a great question we had yesterday. And, the answer we also gave yesterday was that was the very basics, was looking to score. But Coach Anderson's webinar on Monday talking about the basics of offense, he's going to go into a lot of detail on, what are you looking for as a dodger? What are you looking for with the ball? What are you looking for without the ball? And just kind of giving you guys some more ideas to think about in those situations. But that was a great question we had yesterday. All right, I think this is the last slide we've got, just talking about some key things. So number one is we count from X to Y. So remember we had X back here and Y was top center. So when we label a formation that the offense is in, whether we're saying, hey, offense, let's get into this, or defense, you're going to defend this, we label it and we call it out from behind the net to up top. And every formation is going to have 3 numbers, right? So it counts the guys that are behind the goal. It counts the guys that are in the middle of the field, kind of the crease and extended to the wings. And then the guys that are up top, right? Up top, high on the field, up by the restraining line. So if you look at this formation, you'd have 1 guy behind, 3 guys across in the middle, and 2 guys up top. That would make this formation a 1-3-2. All right. There's other formations. It could be a 1-4-1. And what that would be is 1 guy behind, 2 guys on the crease, a guy on each wing, and 1 guy top center, right? The numbers will always add up to 6 because there's 6 offensive players, right? So it'd be 1-4 across, 1 up top, gets a 1-4-1. You could have a 2-2-2, 2 guys behind, 2 on the crease, 2 up top, and that would be that formation. You could have an umbrella. All right, this is one of our favorite offenses at the high school. We run it all the time. We find a lot of success with this offense, but we have 2 guys behind, 1 on the crease, and 3 across the top. And if you see the curve that I'm making here, it almost looks like an umbrella, similar to hockey. There's an umbrella on the power play, right? And it's an umbrella up top, and then the pole of the umbrella down and the handle of the umbrella behind. And that's kind of where that gets its name of the umbrella, of 2 behind, 1 on the crease, 3 up top. 2-1-3 would be like that. So when you hear your coaches say, guys, let's set up in a 1-3-2, this is the formation. You put 1 behind, 3 across, 2 up top. If he says, let's get in a 1-4-1, that'd be 1 behind, 4 across, 1 up top. Okay. So that's important to understand about, we in Staples Lacrosse and Westport Lacrosse, we count from X to Y. Some people count from up top to behind. Some guys count from behind up top. That's the way we've learned it, and that's the way we do it. So we go from 1 behind, 3 across the middle, 2 up top is a 1-3-2. And then the next thing to understand, right, is we're labeling these positions is everything is from the goalie's view. Okay, so when we talk about back right, back left, side right, side left, there's also top right, top left. Okay, I just didn't put those in so we could have these words down here, right? It's all from the goalie's position. So he's looking down the field this way typically, right? He's looking down towards the other team's goalie from here up. To his right is back right, to his right is side right, to his right is top right. And then to his left is back left, side left, and top left. Okay, so why that's important is your coaches might say, hey guys, let's work the ball back right, or let's set up 1-on-1s or 2-on-2s from back right. Or, the goalie might be calling out, and this is what we do expect from our goalies, is to always call out where the ball is. So the goalie might say top right, and the guy that's over here, he's checking to see where his attackman is for a second. He knows that the ball is now top right. And the second that there's a pass from top right to top left, this guy's job is going to change a little bit, right? What he's looking to do is going to change, and so is this guy that's defender that's covering A2. So as the ball moves to this guy, he's going to start to help into the crease. He knows that the second the goalie says, now the ball's top left, he knows he's got to get into the crease. So that's why it's very important for our goalie to be calling out top right, top left, back right. Every time the ball moves, our goalie should be talking to the defense and saying those positions, right? And it's important for everybody on the field, all attackmen, all middies, all defensemen, to understand where on the field the ball is and where exactly that corresponds to, right? And the more times you do it, the more times you hear it, the more comfortable you'll get, right? And the first couple times it might sound a little tough to figure out, especially if the ball's behind and you're looking this way, right? You're looking towards X. And when we say back right, it's actually going to be to your left when you're looking there, but everybody knows that that's the spot on the field that's back right. It's always labeled from the goalie's perspective when he's looking this way. It's not labeled from where you're looking during the game. Okay, so that's important to understand there. And I think that does it for us here on the PowerPoint. I think yesterday we did a great job. There's a lot of questions, answered some of those, through there today. And it's really, we're really excited about this webinar series. I think yesterday was great. I think, looking ahead to Coach Anderson's offensive basics coming on Monday, my defensive basics coming on Tuesday, I think you guys are going to pick up a lot. So far it's looking like our series is going to expand, and we're going to keep doing more video training as we're waiting to see what's going on, with the coronavirus and when we'll be able to get back out on the field. But we think this is a way for us to continue to develop off the field as individuals at home. One of the other questions I was asked yesterday, that was a great question, is, what kind of stuff can we do in the backyard? What kind of stuff can, what should we be watching on YouTube, right? And so there's tons of highlight videos on YouTube. You could watch, basically entire games from the past. You can watch old pro lacrosse games, all that kind of stuff is available on YouTube. And then, as far as backyard stuff, you could get out there, and it doesn't really matter what you do, as long as you have your stick in your hand, you're taking some shots, you're working on your form of shooting, you're working on your dodges, you're out there, whether it's with a brother or sister that plays lacrosse, or maybe they play baseball or whatever it is. You just get out there with a parent and throw the ball around a little bit, keep your stick in your hand, obviously not gathering as groups and getting everybody together, but working on your own in the backyard is a great way to keep your stick in your hand, to keep developing. If you're going to do wall ball or do a bounce back, challenge yourself. Don't just do your strong hand the whole time and go out there for 10 minutes and do only righty wall ball or only righty bounce backs. That's not going to make you better. So put the stick in your left hand. We do something at the high school we call baller's choice, and we let the guys, for at least 2 minutes of every wall ball session, they pick what they want to do. And most of the guys pick behind the back or around the world or one-handed, or catch it crazy, catch it across your body, bring it back, all different stuff like that. And that's why we're pushing those guys to be out of the box, be a little bit creative in that sense. So you guys in 5th and 6th grade should be doing the same stuff. You should be working your way up, and whatever is a challenge for you, you shouldn't be nervous about it and not do it in wall ball. That's the perfect time to do it and to get better at it. So we're looking forward to those videos coming out next week. Stay tuned for links and, the passcodes or the IDs to get into those. Those will all be coming out to you guys on Monday and Tuesday. Offense on Monday, defense on Tuesday, but we recommend that you guys check out both of those videos if you're available. As a defensive player, as a defensive coach, I always like to know what the offense is trying to do, and vice versa. So you guys should check out what Coach Anderson is teaching the offense. As a defenseman, it's important to see that stuff, and it helps you learn what they're trying to do, and how do we defend it? How do we be better at stopping them from getting to where they want, or stopping them from hitting the passes or the shots or the dodges they want to do, and vice versa for the offensive players and the attackmen to learn about the defense and the goalie and what we're trying to do, and how do you beat it? How do you score on us consistently, knowing that we want to force you to certain areas of the field, or things like that. So check those out. Monday and Tuesday, 4 p.m. Email information went out already with those meeting IDs, and we'll send them a reminder email each day before those sessions. But hope you guys enjoy it. This will be recorded and able to send out, so excited about that too. See you guys.